No television courtroom had ever been hit with that level of entitlement before. It was arrogance in its purest form, polished, perfumed, dressed in luxury fabric, and protected by a fortune most people could not even imagine. Madison Kingsley, the 24-year-old daughter of technology billionaire Richard Kingsley, entered Judge Judy Schindlin's courtroom that Tuesday morning as if she were walking into a private members club instead of a court of law. Her $15,000 Chanel outfit looked freshly pulled from a magazine spread. Her diamond earrings, reportedly worth $80,000, flashed under the studio lights every time she tilted her head. Her blonde hair had been styled into soft, effortless waves that looked anything but effortless. And the Louis Vuitton bag beside her sat on the defendant's table like proof that money had always spoken louder than rules in her world. She had come to court over what she clearly considered a meaningless little case. Just $200. A damage claim so small it probably would not have covered one weekend of shopping for her. To Madison, this was not justice. It was entertainment, a minor inconvenience. A funny story to tell later over rooftop cocktails with friends who had never worried about rent, groceries, medical bills, or consequences. But then she said the 8 words that changed everything. You're just another public servant who works for people like me. For a moment, nobody moved. The courtroom went so quiet you could almost hear the cameras breathing, and what happened next would become one of the most explosive courtroom moments ever aired. In just 8 minutes, Madison Kingsley's entire life began to collapse. The clip would go viral across every major platform. It would be watched, shared, stitched, reacted to, and debated more than 180 million times. The hashtag Billionaire Justice would trend for 9 straight days, but the real shock was not that Madison lost the case. She lost far more than that. What Judge Judy did inside that courtroom did not just humiliate a spoiled billionaire's daughter on national television. It pulled a thread that unraveled a family empire. It sparked tax investigations. It exposed secret settlements. It froze Madison's access to the trust fund she had relied on her entire life. It uncovered a repeated pattern of criminal behavior that had been buried again and again beneath expensive lawyers, private agreements, and quiet payoffs. Madison walked into that courtroom convinced she was untouchable. She believed her father's $4.7 billion fortune surrounded her like armor. And honestly, for most of her adult life, it had. She had already been in trouble several times before. There was the DUI when she crashed her $400,000 Lamborghini into a farmer's market while driving a car with a vanity plate that mocked ordinary people. There was the incident with the valet where she allegedly assaulted him because he did not bring her car quickly enough. There was the credit card scandal when she used a roommate's card for an $8 shopping spree. Each time the story disappeared, charges faded, witnesses stopped talking, paperwork got lost, attorneys handled things, donations were made in the right places. Madison learned a lesson, but not the lesson most people would learn. She learned that money could erase almost anything. And so she moved through the world like it belonged to her. Servers, clerks, security guards, police officers, retail workers, delivery drivers, anyone without wealth or status became punchlines in her life. She mocked them openly. She recorded it. She posted it. Her Instagram account, with more than 340,000 followers, was a non-stop stream of designer bags, private flights, luxury hotels, champagne bottles, and cruelty disguised as confidence. She laughed at poor people in grocery lines. She filmed minimum wage workers and called them failures. She bragged that she had never worked a day in her life and never planned to. Her followers watched her with a strange mix of fascination, anger, envy, and disgust. To Madison, this case was supposed to be another joke. But the woman sitting across from her was not a joke. Emma Rodriguez was 26 years old, exhausted, focused, and fighting for the life she had built one shift at a time. She was a nursing student, working 2 jobs while taking night classes. During the day, she worked as a nursing assistant at a hospital. At night, she studied anatomy, medication charts, patient care, and medical procedures until her eyes burned. Emma did not have a trust fund. She did not have a rich father's legal team waiting to rescue her. She had calloused hands, overdue bills, a student schedule, and parents who had sacrificed everything for her future. Her family had immigrated from Mexico when she was 12. Her mother worked cleaning jobs. Her father worked in restaurant kitchens. They had done the kind of work Madison mocked online, the invisible labor that keeps cities running while the wealthy pretend they built everything themselves. Every dollar Emma earned mattered. She budgeted carefully. She saved slowly for 3 years. She put money aside until she could finally afford the security deposit and first month's rent on a small studio apartment in a decent neighborhood. It was not glamorous. It was not large, but it was hers. After years of cramped rooms, difficult roommates, unsafe buildings, and never feeling fully settled, that apartment represented peace, stability, progress. Then her mother needed emergency surgery. Insurance did not cover enough. Bills started piling up. Emma was forced into a painful decision. She could either risk losing everything, or she could temporarily sublet her apartment for 2 months while she stayed with her mother and helped with recovery. It was a decision made from love. It became the worst mistake of her life. Madison responded to Esma's Craigslist listing using a carefully crafted act. She did not arrive as a billionaire's daughter. She presented herself as a young professional who needed short-term housing. She was warm, polite, charming. She paid the first month in cash. She promised to treat the apartment with respect. Emma, overwhelmed by medical bills and worried about her mother, believed her. For 1 week, everything seemed fine. Then the destruction started. Madison began hosting massive parties inside the tiny studio. 40, sometimes 50 people packed into a space meant for one person. Her rich friends treated the apartment like a disposable set for social media content. They drank, screamed, broke things, filmed themselves, and laughed while Emma's neighbors called the police again and again. Furniture was destroyed. Walls were damaged. Appliances were broken. Dishes were smashed against the floor and thrown against walls. The bathroom flooded more than once. The carpet was ruined with red wine. The bedroom walls were sprayed with vulgar phrases. The mattress was burned with cigarette holes. The closet door was ripped from its hinges. And Madison documented much of it herself. The couch, which Emma had saved 2 years to buy, was slashed with a knife while Madison filmed and captioned the video with a cruel joke about poor people furniture. The television was shattered during a TikTok style clip where Madison threw a champagne bottle at the screen. The bathroom flooding was treated as comedy. The damage was not hidden. It was celebrated when Emma returned after 2 months of caring for her recovering mother. She opened the door and froze. Her home was unrecognizable. It looked less like an apartment and more like a crime scene. The landlord kept her entire $3, 600 security deposit, and threatened to sue for additional damage. The total cost was estimated at $18,000. Emma had lost the furniture she worked for, the home she cherished, the financial cushion she had barely managed to build, and the safety she had fought so hard to create. Madison, meanwhile, posted about it with laughing emojis. Emma tried to handle it the right way. She called Madison 17 times. No answer. She sent photos of the damage. Madison replied with laughing emojis. She contacted Richard Kingsley's office, hoping someone responsible might step in. His assistant laughed and hung up. She filed a police report. Officers told her it was a civil matter. She tried small claims court. Kingsley family lawyers got the case dismissed on a technicality, arguing that Emma could not prove exactly which damage Madison personally caused, even though Madison's own social media had shown plenty. By the time Emma applied to appear on Judge Judy's show, she was not expecting miracles. She knew she would probably never recover the full $18,000. She was suing for $3,200, mostly to recover what she had lost in her deposit and a small part of the emotional damage caused by the ordeal. It was not about becoming rich. It was about someone finally saying what Madison did was wrong. But neither Madison nor Emma knew what had been happening behind the scenes. Judge Judy's research team had been looking into Madison Kingsley for 2 weeks before the taping, and the more they found, the darker the story became. They recovered deleted social media videos Madison thought were gone forever. They found screenshots. They obtained messages where Madison mocked Emma, used racial slurs, and bragged about targeting her. They discovered multiple previous incidents involving destroyed rental properties, quiet settlements, and non-disclosure agreements paid for by Richard Kingsley's lawyers. The pattern was impossible to ignore. Madison had done this before. In 2019, while attending an elite East Coast university, she hosted an unauthorized party at her sorority house. Security footage showed antique furniture smashed, walls spray painted, and a grand piano damaged beyond repair after alcohol was poured into it for a video. Damage was estimated at $45,000. The sorority organization threatened criminal charges and expulsion. Then Richard Kingsley's lawyers appeared. Within 2 days, the university received a generous donation to a building fund. The official record went quiet. Madison stayed enrolled. No lasting punishment followed. In 2021, she rented a luxury vacation home in Miami for spring break. The waterfront property was worth millions and rented for thousands per week. When the owner returned, the home had broken windows, destroyed furniture, cracked countertops, stolen artwork, and serious structural damage. Madison had allegedly decided the master bedroom needed better party flow and damaged a wall during a drunken redesign attempt. The owner threatened to sue. Madison's attorney accused him of exaggerating and hinted at a defamation lawsuit. Facing a billionaire's legal machine, the owner took a settlement and signed an NDA. In 2022, she rented a high-end apartment in Tribeca. 3 months later, the owners, a retired couple, discovered destroyed hardwood floors, ruined wallpaper, broken appliances, and a bathroom Madison had tried to repaint hot pink while intoxicated. When they tried to sue, they were offered a choice: accept a payment and remain silent, or spend years fighting a legal team they could never afford. They took the money. Madison celebrated online. Then in 2023, she allegedly threw a full glass of red wine into a waitress's face at an upscale Manhattan restaurant because the kitchen was closing and the server politely told her to place any final order. Madison and her friends laughed while the waitress cried. The bill was more than $1,000. Madison left no tip. A police report was filed. The charges disappeared. Over and over again, Madison damaged things, hurt people, mocked them, and walked away. Her father's empire made that possible. Richard Kingsley had built Kingsley Technologies during the tech boom of the late 1990s. He became famous for buying smaller startups, absorbing their patents, cutting staff, and moving on. Former employees described a ruthless culture. Lawsuits alleged wage violations, discrimination, and hostile working conditions. Most were settled privately. Richard's belief was simple: money solves problems, and if money fails, lawyers solve the rest. That was the world Madison grew up in. She was never taught accountability. She was taught insulation. The Kingsleys also had connections. Richard donated heavily to campaigns, charities, foundations, and institutions. Prosecutors knew his name. Police departments knew his name. Judges knew his name. Political offices knew his name. When Madison got into trouble, calls were made. Pressure was applied. Deals were done. So when she entered Judge Judy's courtroom, she believed the same invisible machinery would protect her again. She was wrong. Before the taping, Madison treated the case like a publicity event. She told friends she was going to destroy some TV judge and show everyone how power really worked. That morning, she posted an Instagram story saying she was about to teach Judge Judy, who was actually in charge, using a crown emoji and a hashtag about billionaire problems. She brought an expensive entertainment attorney. She had her outfit chosen to send a message. She even had a personal photographer waiting to capture what she expected would be a humiliating defeat for Emma. Madison's strategy was simple: deny everything. Call Emma a liar, claim the apartment was already damaged, and suggest Emma was looking for a payday. But Judge Judy's team was ready. The trap was set. And Madison walked directly into it. The courtroom was buzzing when cameras started rolling. The audience settled in. Emma stood with a folder of evidence clutched tightly in both hands. Her face showed exhaustion, not theatrics. She looked like someone who had carried this fight too long. Madison sat across from her like she was bored. Judge Judy began without ceremony. Miss Kingsley, Miss Rodriguez is suing you for $200 in damages to her apartment. Did you damage her property? Madison rolled her eyes. Your Honor, I barely touched that place. It was already a dump when I got there. She's obviously trying to profit off my family's name. The courtroom stirred with disapproval. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. I didn't ask for your review of the apartment. I asked if you caused the damage. Madison flicked her hand as if brushing away dust. Whatever happened there was normal wear and tear. If the place was built badly, that's not my fault. Emma's turn came next. Her hands trembled as she showed the before photos. The apartment was small but clean, organized, warm, a carefully chosen couch, a modest television, a white carpet, a tiny kitchen, a place somebody had loved. Then came the after photos. The mood in the room shifted. The couch had deep knife marks across it. The television screen was shattered. The carpet was stained beyond repair. The walls were covered in vulgar spray paint. The mattress was burned. Kitchen cabinets hung crooked. Appliances were damaged. The bathroom floor showed water damage. Emma handed over the landlord's itemized statement, $18. Susan in total damage. She showed messages Madison sent in response to photos of the destruction, laughing emojis, mockery, no apology. Then Emma presented medical documents showing stress-related illness and anxiety attacks after the incident. Her voice cracked as she explained how she had been trying to care for her mother, keep her job, stay in school, and recover from a financial hit that could have ended her education. Madison laughed. It was quiet at first, but the microphone caught it. Then she leaned toward her attorney and whispered, "This is pathetic." The audience heard it. Judge Judy heard it. Emma heard it. Judge Judy snapped her gaze toward Madison. "Miss Kingsley, do you find this funny?" Madison shrugged. "I find it dramatic." Judge Judy's voice sharpened. "You are in a courtroom, not a lounge, not a party, not one of your social media videos. Put your phone away and pay attention." Madison glanced down at her phone and replied with unbelievable calm, "I'm sorry, Your Honor, but this is taking longer than I planned. I have important things to do today," the audience gasped. Judge Judy leaned forward. "The only important thing you are doing today is answering my questions, and you will answer them with respect." The questioning became more precise. "You paid Miss Rodriguez $2,800 in cash for the first month. Where did that cash come from?" Madison looked confused by the question. "My father, obviously." "You're 24 years old. Are you employed?" Madison almost laughed. "Employed? No, I don't need a job." "Why not?" "Because my family has money." Judge Judy paused just long enough for the words to hang in the air. "So you do not earn your own living. You live entirely on money given to you by your father. Yet you felt entitled to destroy the home of a woman who works 2 jobs and goes to school." Madison sat up, annoyed. "I paid rent. Once I'm renting the space, what happens there is my business." Judge Judy seized the opening. "What happens there?" "So you admit something happened while you were responsible for the apartment?" Madison's expression tightened. "I'm saying she's exaggerating. The place needed work anyway. Honestly, she should thank me for the renovation ideas." The audience erupted in angry whispers. Judge Judy lifted a stack of papers. "Miss Kingsley, do you use Instagram?" Madison's face changed. She seemed almost proud. "Yes, I have 340,000 followers." "And did you post videos from Miss Rodriguez's apartment?" Madison hesitated. "I may have posted stories. Everyone posts stories." Judge Judy looked down at the papers. "These are screenshots from videos you posted publicly and later deleted." Madison's attorney stood. "Your Honor, We object. Those were private. Judge Judy cut him off instantly. Sit down. Your client posted them publicly. She does not get to call them private because they became inconvenient later. The attorney sat. Judge Judy read aloud. Quote, look at this dump I'm staying in. About to improve it by making it worse. Poor people deserve poor things. End quote. The courtroom reacted again. Madison's face went pale. Judge Judy continued. That caption was posted while you filmed yourself spray painting Miss Rodriguez's bedroom wall. Is that correct? Madison swallowed. It was a joke. A joke? For my followers. It was content. Judge Judy's voice lowered. You caused thousands of dollars of damage to someone's home for content? Madison shifted in her chair. I didn't cause thousands of dollars. She's inflating everything because she wants money from my family. Emma whispered. I just want what I lost. Madison turned toward her. Oh, please, stop pretending. You probably damaged your own apartment and blamed me because you knew who I was. Judge Judy's voice cracked through the room. Turn around and face me. Madison froze. Judge Judy's expression was no longer merely irritated. It was controlled fury. Do you think you are better than Miss Rodriguez? Madison paused only a second. Objectively, yes. The room exploded. Madison continued, as if explaining something obvious. My father built a company. He created jobs. He contributes to society. What has her family done? Judge Judy stared at her. What has her family done? Her family came to this country and worked honest jobs. Miss Rodriguez is studying to become a nurse. She will care for sick children, injured strangers, dying patients. She will serve people when they are frightened and vulnerable. What exactly do you do? Madison smirked. I contribute to the economy. My family spends money. That employs people. No, Judge Judy said. Your father spends money. You spend your father's money. And from what I can see, you spend it destroying other people's property. Madison's composure cracked. With all due respect, Your Honor, you don't understand how the world works. Judge Judy leaned back. Then explain it to me. Madison's chin lifted. People like you work for people like me. You're a public servant. My father pays taxes. Technically, his money pays your salary, so maybe you should remember that before lecturing me about respect. Silence. Complete silence. Emma covered her mouth. Madison's attorney lowered his head into his hands. Even the audience seemed afraid to breathe. Judge Judy stared at Madison for nearly 10 seconds. Then she slowly closed the folder in front of her. In 35 years on the bench, I have seen liars. I have seen thieves. I have seen violent people. I have seen people with no remorse. But you are something especially dangerous. You have mistaken wealth for character. Madison opened her mouth. Your Honor, I didn't. Be quiet. Madison stopped. You have said more than enough. Judge Judy lifted another document. Let's talk about what you really did. She read from a text message. Quote, trashing this Mexican apartment tonight. She deserves it. End quote. The courtroom gasped loudly. Emma broke down. Madison shook her head. Judge Judy's eyes flashed. Out of context. Fine. Let's add context. She turned to Emma. Miss Rodriguez, when you first met Miss Kingsley, did she make any comments about your background? Emma wiped her face. She asked if I was legal. The courtroom murmured. She said I should be grateful someone like her was paying me. Judge Judy asked, "Were there other comments?" Emma nodded. She called me names. She said people like me were ruining the neighborhood. Judge Judy turned back to Madison. This was not a wild party that got out of hand. This was not normal wear and tear. This was targeted destruction, and based on the messages in front of me, it was motivated by bigotry. Madison panicked. "I'm not racist. That's ridiculous." Judge Judy slammed her hand down. "Stop talking." The room went still again. "Let's discuss the numbers. Your father gives you $50,000 a month, correct?" Madison's voice was smaller now. "Yes, that is $600,000 a year for doing nothing. Miss Rodriguez works approximately 60 hours a week and earns about $32,000 a year while going to school. The $3,200 she is suing for represents a significant portion of her annual income. For you, it is less than what you spend on a handbag." Madison said nothing. Judge Judy continued. "And this is not your first episode of destruction, is it?" Her attorney stood again. "Your Honor, sit down." He sat. Judge Judy listed them one by one. 2019. Sorority house damage, $45,000. Resolved privately ploy 2021. Miami rental property, more than $30,000 in damage. Settlement and non-disclosure agreement, 2022. Tribeca apartment, $25,000 in damage. Another settlement, 2023. Restaurant assault allegation. Charges dropped. Madison stared at the table. Again and again, Judge Judy said, "You damage things, hurt people, mock them. And then your father's lawyers arrive with checks and threats. That may have worked elsewhere. It does not work in my courtroom." Madison's voice cracked. "I'll pay. I'll pay whatever she wants." "Now you want to pay," Judge Judy said. After denying it, after mocking her, after insulting this court, Madison's eyes filled with tears. Judge Judy was unmoved. "I am awarding Miss Rodriguez the full $3,200. Madison looked relieved for half a second. Judge Judy continued. "I am also awarding $15. Zeros in punitive damages for malicious conduct and harassment." The audience erupted. "And furthermore, I am referring this matter to the appropriate authorities for review. The messages, the videos, and the nature of the damage raise serious questions beyond a civil claim." Madison's attorney objected again. "This is highly irregular." Judge Judy looked at him. "What is irregular is wealthy people believing they can purchase silence from every victim they create." Then she held up one final document. "This petition outlines several prior settlements connected to your conduct. Non-disclosure agreements, private payments, bought silence. I suspect other agencies will be interested in how those payments were classified." Madison started crying. "You can't do this." Judge Judy's response was ice cold. "I did not do this. You did this. Your father's money delayed the consequences. It did not erase them." Madison trembled. "You came here believing you were untouchable. You leave with a judgment against you, a referral, and hopefully the first real lesson of your life. Money does not make you superior to anyone." She struck the final blow. "Case dismissed." Madison collapsed into sobs. Her attorney rushed her away from the table. Emma stood frozen, tears on her face, then mouthed a quiet "thank you." Judge Judy gave her a rare, gentle smile, and the internet detonated. Within 2 hours, clips of the exchange had already reached millions of viewers. By that evening, the courtroom moment was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, every platform had the same video, the same stunned reactions, the same quote. People like you work for people like me. Those words became the symbol of everything people hated about unchecked privilege. The hashtag billionaire justice hit #1. Reaction videos flooded TikTok. Legal analysts broke down the ruling. Former tenants shared their own stories. Service workers stitched the clip with experiences of being mocked by the rich. Nurses, students, immigrants, renters, and working class families rallied behind Emma. Within 24 hours, the clip had reached nearly 90 million views. By the end of the week, it had passed 180 million. Madison's social media accounts were buried under backlash. Her comments filled with anger from people who had watched her cruelty for years and finally saw her face consequences. Instagram eventually removed her account after hundreds of thousands of hostile comments and mass reports. The memes came next: her diamond earrings, her stunned face, Judge Judy's silence, the moment her smirk disappeared. The phrase, technically, you work for my family, became a punchline used by millions. Judge Judy's ratings surged dramatically. The episode became the most discussed courtroom broadcast in years. But the viral humiliation was only the beginning. Within 48 hours, the district attorney's office opened a review. The recovered videos and messages were examined. Charges were considered, including criminal mischief, harassment, and bias-motivated property destruction. Then federal investigators began looking into Richard Kingsley's financial records. The settlements used to cover Madison's past behavior raised questions. How had they been categorized? Were they personal expenses, business expenses, charitable payments, legal write-offs? Soon, investigators uncovered years of questionable classifications tied to Kingsley-controlled entities. The IRS audit widened. Reports suggested millions in improper tax treatment over a 7-year period. Richard Kingsley, a man who once boasted that money solved everything, suddenly found himself facing questions money could not easily silence. And once the first crack appeared, more victims came forward. 11 people contacted attorneys after the episode aired: former landlords, a restaurant worker, property owners, people who had signed NDAs and stayed quiet because they feared the Kingsley machine. Now, with national attention on the case, they had power they never had before. Lawsuits followed. The total claims reached millions. Madison's protected world collapsed rapidly. She was dropped from private clubs, banned from restaurants, removed from brand partnerships. Friends who once laughed with her suddenly claimed they barely knew her. Influencer deals vanished overnight. Companies that had once wanted access to her luxury audience now wanted distance. Richard cut off her $50,000 monthly allowance. Her credit cards were canceled. Her trust fund access was frozen. She was forced out of her luxury apartment. For the first time in her life, Madison had to face bills without an automatic rescue. Then came the emotional collapse. Reports said she checked into a rehabilitation and treatment facility after a breakdown. Her remaining social media accounts vanished. Paparazzi tried to locate her, but she disappeared from public view. Richard's empire also suffered. Kingsley Technologies' stock dropped sharply after the controversy. Several corporate clients paused contracts. Board members demanded answers. Charities removed Richard from advisory positions. Country clubs suspended family memberships. Political figures began returning donations or claiming they had no close relationship with him. His public apology did little to help. He said his family believed in accountability and regretted the pain caused. The internet did not buy it. Madison attempted her own apology, but it was rejected almost instantly. Viewers called it scripted, forced, and self-serving. The ratio was brutal. For every supportive comment, there were dozens calling out years of cruelty. Meanwhile, Emma's life changed in the opposite direction. A GoFundMe started by viewers raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. Emma used the money to pay off student loans, help her family, and establish a scholarship fund for nursing students from working class immigrant families. The landlord dispute was resolved. She received a settlement covering her losses. Then came interviews, speaking invitations, and community recognition. People magazine featured her story. Nursing schools invited her to speak about resilience, tenant rights, and standing up to intimidation. Her hospital offered her a full-time position after graduation. Tenant rights organizations reached out. Emma became a symbol, not because she asked to be famous, but because her story represented millions of people who had been dismissed, ignored, or crushed by people with more money and louder lawyers. She later said the hardest part had not been losing the furniture or the money. It was being treated like her life did not matter. Judge Judy reportedly called Emma personally after the episode aired. That call became one of Emma's most treasured memories. But the case did not stop at television fame. State lawmakers began discussing new protections for tenants harmed by deliberate destruction. Some proposed restrictions on non-disclosure agreements used to hide repeated civil misconduct. Others called for stronger penalties when property damage is connected to targeted harassment. The phrase Kingsley Law began appearing in headlines. A movement formed online calling for accountability for wealthy repeat offenders. Millions followed pages dedicated to exposing how money protects people from consequences. Madison, once a lifestyle influencer, became a cautionary tale. Her name became shorthand for privilege without conscience. 6 months later, the transformation was almost impossible to believe. Madison Kingsley was no longer living in luxury towers or posting from private clubs. She was reportedly staying in a modest apartment with rent similar to the home she had destroyed. She had taken her first real job as an assistant manager in retail, earning hourly wages and working under supervisors who did not care who her father was. She was ordered to complete 500 hours of community service. She attended therapy. She lived on a budget. Her public presence disappeared. Her relationship with Richard became strained. Reports claimed he visited once a month, but their connection was damaged by resentment on both sides. Some of Madison's former victims said she contacted them privately to apologize. Not all accepted. Some believed she was truly humbled. Others believed she was sorry only because consequences finally arrived. Either way, her old life was gone. Richard Kingsley paid millions in taxes, penalties, and settlements. Under pressure from his company's board, he stepped down as CEO. His divorce became public and expensive. His fortune, once estimated at $4.7 billion, reportedly dropped dramatically after business losses, legal exposure, and personal settlements. In interviews, he eventually admitted what many people already believed. He had enabled Madison. He had protected her from the very consequences that might have changed her years earlier. Emma Rodriguez, meanwhile, graduated near the top of her nursing class. She accepted a position in pediatric oncology, working with children and families facing some of the hardest days of their lives. Her scholarship fund helped dozens of students. She became engaged. She bought her first home. She continued advocating for tenants who lacked the money to fight abusive landlords, destructive renters, or wealthy people who used intimidation as a weapon. When asked about Madison, Emma did not celebrate her suffering. She simply said accountability should not require a viral video. Judge Judy's episode became the highest rated broadcast in the show's history. Legal scholars discussed it as a cultural moment. Law schools used it as a case study in public accountability, class privilege, civil damages, and the limitations of private settlements. Judge Judy later said the Kingsley case reminded people of something basic but often forgotten. Justice has no meaning if wealth can always buy immunity. Madison eventually pleaded guilty to reduced charges. Her sentence included probation, community service, mandatory therapy, restitution, and a permanent record. Multiple victims settled claims. Emma received additional compensation. Richard's company paid millions in back taxes and penalties. But the real sentence, the one no judge could formally impose, was public memory. Madison Kingsley became the face of entitled wealth meeting a wall it could not climb. She had walked into court believing the world still worked the way it always had for her. She believed everyone could be bought. She believed service workers were beneath her. She believed immigrants were targets. She believed her father's name was stronger than evidence. She believed Judge Judy would bend. Instead, the whole country watched her learn otherwise. And that is why this story spread so far, because it was not only about one apartment. It was about every worker who has been disrespected by someone with money, every tenant ignored by someone powerful, every immigrant family mocked by people who never had to struggle, every victim told to stay quiet because fighting back would cost too much. Emma Rodriguez stood in that courtroom with shaking hands and told the truth. Madison Kingsley sat across from her wearing diamonds and told the world exactly who she believed she was. And Judge Judy made sure everyone saw the difference. This case proved something people needed to hear. Money can delay accountability. It can bury complaints. It can hire lawyers. It can silence victims. It can make phone calls, write checks, and close doors. But money cannot always stop the truth once it is spoken in the right room, in front of the right person, with cameras rolling. Madison thought her father's billions made her untouchable. Then she insulted a judge to her face. And in 8 unforgettable minutes, the illusion shattered. Justice is not supposed to belong only to the wealthy. It is supposed to belong to everyone. And on that day, in that courtroom, Emma Rodriguez finally got to see someone powerful say enough. So the next time someone claims money rules everything, remember this case. Remember the designer suit. Remember the diamonds. Remember the smirk. Remember the sentence that silenced the room. And remember what happened next. Because Madison Kingsley walked into court as a billionaire's daughter who thought consequences were for other people. She walked out as proof that even the richest families can fall when truth refuses to stay quiet.